Alright, hi guys, thanks for your patience in trying out this new video format with me. Let me know how you think it works. So, today, we need to talk about how to form the perfect and pluperfect subjunctive. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how to use them a little later today. So, once again, to form any perfect active form, we need to go to the third principal part. And then it's just a matter of knowing what to add to the third principal part. So, if we want to do the perfect active subjunctive, take the third principal part. Let's use amo because it's a good example. So amo, amare, amawi, amatus, right? So amawi, drop off the I at the end, and then you just have to know what endings to add. For the perfect active subjunctive, the endings are going to be arim, aris, arit, arimus, aritis, and arint. Once again, you'll just kind of have to memorize these endings. So if we do this for amo, right, in the first person singular, it's going to be amoerim, amoeris, amoerit, amoerimus, amoeritis, amoerint. Really not too hard. One other thing to look at, we need to pay attention to, is the similarities between the future perfect indicative and the perfect subjunctive. So if you look in the two charts here, most of these forms are very similar. And in fact, without the macrons pointing out that amoeris is long here in the second singular versus in the future perfect it's short, you wouldn't even know that some of these forms are different. The only one that looks distinctly different without macrons is that first singular amoero versus amoerim. So when you're looking at this, you just need to pay attention to context. Perfect subjunctives only occur in certain kinds of situations and certain kinds of clauses. So look for why it would be subjunctive, if it is. If you can't find a reason it might be subjunctive, default to the future perfect. Alright, so to form the pluperfect active subjunctive, it's going to be much the same thing as the perfect active subjunctive third principal part, and then we just have to figure out what the endings are. So, if you remember how to form the perfect active indicative, right, third principal part plus ISS, the perfect active infinitive, which is the third principal part plus ISSE, so for amo, we say, would be the perfect active infinitive. That'll help you figure out how to form this pluperfect active subjunctive. If you'll remember, to form the imperfect subjunctive, we need to go to the second principal part, take that infinitive, and then add the endings mst, mustus, und, right? For the pluperfect active subjunctive, we effectively are doing the same thing. You're going to go to the perfect active infinitive, which is the third principal part, plus ISSE, and then add mst, mustus, und, right? So if the perfect active infinitive is amo, we say, to form the pluperfect active subjunctive, we just need to add the personal endings. So it's going to be amo, we sem, amo, we ses, amo, we set, amo, we semus, amo, we setis, amo, we sent. So once again, if you remember, these pluperfect active subjunctives are kind of like imperfect active subjunctives. You take an infinitive and add the endings. That will help. For the imperfect subjunctive, it's the present active infinitive. For the pluperfect subjunctive, it is the perfect active infinitive for those active voices. All right. Forming passives, once again, is really easy because the entire perfect passive system is just going to be the fourth principal part plus a form of sum. So the perfect passive indicative is formed by the fourth principal part plus sum ss, sumus estis, sunt, right? So for once again using amo as our example, we're going to take the fourth principal part of amo. Let's call it masculine here, amatus, right? It'll be amatus sum, amatus es, amatus est. When you go to the plurals, remember to turn amatus into amati, amati sumus, amatis, amati estis, amati sunt. So if we're going to do this, and instead of forming the perfect passive indicative, form the perfect passive subjunctive, we're just going to change the form of sum. So if in the perfect passive indicative we use sum es est, and the perfect passive subjunctive, we're just going to take that sum es est and put it in the present subjunctive, sim, sis, sit, simis, sitis, sint, right? So once again, with amatus, it would be amatus sim, amatus sis, amatus sit, amati simus, amati sitis, amati sint. So the only thing that changes, rather than using the present indicative of essay, use the present subjunctive. really pretty straightforward. If you just remember, the perfect passive system always is going to be the fourth principal part plus a form of sum. You just have to figure out what form of sum it's going to be to make sense. So if we go to the pluperfect passive subjunctive, follow the exact same rules. Fourth principal part plus a form of sum. Now remember, the pluperfect passive indicative is going to take the fourth principal part plus a ram, aras, arat, aramos, aratus, arant, which is the imperfect of esse. So if we want to form the pluperfect passive subjunctive, we want to find the imperfect subjunctive of esse and add the fourth principal part to it. So the imperfect subjunctive of esse is essem, assess, asset, assemus, assetus, assent. We just have to add the fourth principal part. So it'll be amatus essem, amatus assess, amatus asset, amatus assemus, amatus assetus, amatus assent. Except you need to make the fourth principal part plural, so amati assemus, amati assetus, amati assent. Sorry about that. So once again, the only change, rather than the imperfect indicative of esse, use the imperfect subjunctive. So just remember those couple simple rules. All of the perfect passive system is just the fourth principal part plus a form of sum. So if we run through that whole perfect passive system really quickly, if we look at the perfect passive, amatus, plus sum ss, sumus etis sunt, the pluperfect passive indicative, amatus, plus aram, aras, arat, aramos, aratus, arant, which is going to be the imperfect of esse, the future perfect passive indicative, which will be amatus, plus ero, aris, arit, erimus, aritis, arent, and then we go to the subjunctives. The perfect passive subjunctive is going to do amatus plus the present subjunctive of esse, sim, sis, sit, simus, situs, sent, and the pluperfect passive subjunctive is going to be the imperfect of esse plus the fourth principal part, amatus, assem, assess, assat, assemus, assetus, assetus, assent. Now, final question, is there a future perfect subjunctive? And the answer is no. The subjunctive does not have any future tenses, so you only have to memorize those two. The perfect subjunctive and the pluperfect subjunctive. There is no future perfect subjunctive. That's it. Take a moment, look over the charts, make sure you practice this, and then do exercise.